Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrible General Health System's Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
Mike, to tell you here for HTV, 25th anniversary of the Manning camp. Unbelievable, because this camp could be anywhere in the country. Orlando tried to steal it away in Disney a few years back. Archie Payton, Eli Cooper decided to keep it here. It's an over $2 million economic impact in this area each and every year. And so, man, it's great to have them here each and every year. We have over 40 counselors, almost 1,200 campers. Archie talked about over 40 states, Canada, Mexico, young men coming here. A little bit of osmosis, trying to grab some of that from the Mannings. And so it's great to be here for another year. We missed it last year because of COVID. Thrilled to be back, and we got a lot of coverage of the counselors who are here each and every year, some of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Thanks for coming today. Appreciate you being here. Kind of repetitive every year, although it's the first time we've had a 25th Manning Passing Academy. We missed it last year, as we all missed a lot of things, so we're glad to be back. We're so indebted, people throughout the state of Louisiana, our governor, the health people that allowed us early on to plan this camp. As always, the wonderful people at Nicholls State and the community in Thibodaux and surrounding area and the parish, all the hospitality they provided us now over the last 15, 16 years here in Thibodaux. So, yeah, it's special to still be going in our 25th year. So I thank my three sons, Cooper, Peyton, and Eli, who none of them have ever missed a minute of the camp, 25 years. Peyton was a junior at Tennessee when we started. Eli was a camper first 3 years. He was a sophomore in high school, and Cooper had just graduated from Ole Miss. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the two other people that was so involved when we started and still are 25 years later. Our first camp was at Tulane. Buddy Tevens was the head coach. He's gone full circle. He's back at Dartmouth where he played Ivy League championship year before last. Buddy's been with us, run this camp from the coaching standpoint for 25 years. And Jeff Hawkins, who was an assistant on Buddy's staff, he's operations and assistant AD out of the University of Oregon, still runs our camp on all the day-to-day and minute-to-minute, hour-to-hour things, and runs it during the off seasons from Oregon. So we appreciate those guys and indebted to them. Cooper's right back there. Come on up, Coop. Come on up.
How many guys you got? How many guys you got? How many coaches and players? How many players you got?
This year?
Yeah, tell them.
Yeah, I think we're right about like our normal number, 1,200 campers, 40-something states, Canada. We have around 120 coaches. I wish you could hear our first staff meeting. Everyone gets up and kind of says who they are and how many years they've been coming. It makes us really feel proud. A lot of the high school coaches from around the country, some around this area, 23 years, this one 19 years, a couple 24 years. Got a great group of quarterbacks this year. Had a few more than we've had. Had a couple that couldn't come, a couple, just things going on, and we're kind of all or none. Some of them want to come for just part of it, but that just doesn't work. So it was a few lined up to come, had a little conflict, so they couldn't get here. But we've got a great group of kids, and they're so important to our camp. Obviously, these kids from around the country, they love these college quarterbacks and getting to know them, being around them. Then they'll follow them this fall. That's a real special part of our camp. First year we had four. We had four college quarterbacks. Right here, no, not even quarterbacks. Bo Meeks, who's still with us, he's a high school coach in Airline High School. It's his 25th year at the camp. Jake DeLome and Brandon Stokely were a tandem at it was called Southwest Louisiana in those days. Those were our four college players back then.
Mike DeTalia for HTV with the legendary Ed Daniels on Channel 26 today. Ed, long time you've been on the air, not only in New Orleans but also in Baton Rouge. We both sort of got in the business with a guy named Buddy Diliberto and we got a little bit of Diliberto in both of us. I hate to say it, but it is the truth. Maybe me a little bit more than you, but it is what it is, and your mark you've certainly made. Well, first of all, before we get into that, 25 years of Manning, and what it has meant for Louisiana, also for the Deep South. 7-on-7 was really a California situation, and some in Texas.
Right.
Even say 15 years ago. Today, it's all over.
Right.
And it has changed the football world like nothing else we've seen.
Oh, there's no doubt. And, one of the things we've talked about is putting together a 7-on-7 deal next year at WGNO Stadium in Metairie. But there's no question that 7-on-7 has changed a lot of things. And, I find ourselves covering more and more and more and more of it. And you used to have a summer. I'm not complaining, all right?
Gives you something.
You used to have a summer, all right? But, we were talking about it in the office the other day. What is this, July 16th? To me, summer ended like right after Memorial Day. It was
If then.
If then. And it was like, well, LSU got knocked out in the NCAA Super Regional. And then after that, you figure, we're going to have a summer. Well, we really haven't had one. And, we've been extremely busy with teams who are working really, it's around the clock. I mean, if you look at a team that goes to a championship game, they play in early December. Guess what? They're back in the weight room in January. They're working all off season. And then you get to the off season as soon as baseball's over. Spring practice kicks in. You got 2 weeks, which I think is too short, all right? Story for another day. You got 2 weeks, and then you go right into 7-on-7, and then there's a short break, and you go right into the season, and here we go, starting it all over again.
One of the things you've had the building blocks on, and early on, not everybody's sort of duplicated the Friday night sports, the coverage of the prep ranks. Not only in football, you guys do it in baseball, basketball, the whole thing now, but football really was the originator of it. And listen, I give you full credit. You were the guy. Maybe other people did it before, but not at that level. Mm-hmm. And to have that format every Friday for an hour, and you guys are all over the state showing players, coaches, everything else. And man, I give you full credit for that. It's an unbelievable accomplishment in your life. That's going to be on your byline. I know, you won't read it after you passed on, but it will be on your byline.
Well, I mean, that's a nice thing to say, and it has been a labor of love. It's been fantastic. And, I was looking at our schedule the other day. I was going over it with our chief photographer, Pat Thomas, and we're going to have 8 photographers on Friday nights. And, if there is a big game somewhere, we're going to be at it. When you have those kind of numbers, that guarantees you that. But it's also the station support. Right. All right, I'm talking to Patrick. Patrick's been working on the program for 25 years. Our directors, Paul Johnson and Scott Andrews, have been working on the program for about 25 years each. Mike Hester has been with us for 10 or 15 years now. We have a bunch of people who have been on the program consistently all these years. Plus, the one thing that absolutely makes a difference, if you don't have the resources, you can't get it done the way you want.
Right.
And what that many people allows you to do, all right, what it allows you to do is it allows you to go to a big game and stay there.
Right.
And not leave. Oh, I've got to run somewhere else. Well, you do that, you're going to miss something. So if there's a big game on the Bayou or on the river or in the city or in Jefferson Parish or on the North Shore, in Washington Parish, in Plaquemines Parish, St. James, we're going to be there and we're going to stay there. And I think that makes a big difference. Plus, I think going on at 11 o'clock helps.
I agree.
Not hurts. And when that change first happened and we went from 10:30 to 11, frankly, I was concerned that it was going to be the death of the show. And it's been the exact opposite.
You know why? Mom and dad, mama and papa, the aunt and the uncle, and the kids. You know what they doing? They leaving that stadium, getting dressed, they go and watch it on TV.
Right.
It gives them an opportunity. At 10:30, that's really cutting it kind of tight.
Oh.
But I think 11 o'clock gives them the time.
Oh, I agree. And, having the entire hour, here's another thing that having the entire hour does. And look, I sit at my desk or at home at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday thinking about all this stuff, all right? You know, it's constantly in your brain. Believe me, a program like this at this time of the year never leaves your mind, not for 1 second, until the season's over. It doesn't leave your mind
agree
ever.
with you.
It's right here looking at you. It's looking you in the face all the time. But the one thing that allows you to do, if you're on at 11 o'clock, is, okay, you can stay at a game all the way to the end, all right?
Right.
So if there's a winning field goal kicked at 10:20 p.m. or 10:25 p.m., the photographer will call in and say, hey, we're on our way back. We may not be right back at 11, but we'll be back shortly after. And my reply will often be, take your time, edit as many plays as you need, and what we call it in the TV business, we'll float it. And we'll send it down the rundown a little bit and get to it a little bit later. But the deal is that you have everything. And if there's a game-winning field goal, I have on my sheet that I give to my staff every year, all right? And the golden rule is don't leave the game if it's close. Okay? And that's our number one rule.
Listen,
Don't leave the game if it's close. And look, and I'm talking about, look, we're right here. We're a stone's throw from E.D. White,
Right.
okay? And we're right by Thibodeau High School. And we're not far from Central Lafourche and some of the other schools around here. And
some of those Destrehan, Hornville games
Go.
that have went overtime and double overtime.
right, exactly. And you know what? If you're on the river at 10:35, and you know, you can always, with computers now, you can send it back a lot quicker. But not everyone has a computer in the field. My deal is, look, if the game's close, don't leave. We'll figure it out back here at the studio.
That River Parish, man, it's been unbelievable to see that run that they've had.
Well, you know, here's the thing. If you look at St. James, they won a state championship
Exactly.
recently. They've had a great program throughout the years. Rick
Valdez
Gailey,
has done a
Valdez has done a fantastic job.
And
Robertson,
Rick before.
and Rick Gailey. All right. If you go to St. Charles Catholic, Frank Monica and Wayne Stein and his staff. West St. John has won multiple championships. Coach Walters does a great job. Laurie DuPont, of course, won in I think '98, 2003, 2004. You go and you know we all know what Destrehan has done. And that back-to-back run in 7 and 8 when they won 29 in a row was ridiculous.
That's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, that was incredible. You know, Hahnville and their great tradition, they've won state championships. Riverside's won state championships. East St. John has been very good. Larry Dotrieve did an unbelievable job there. We all know what Coach Tim and Coach Jenkins have done at Lutcher. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And if you look at what happens on the river, and look, when the program started in '92, I went to my boss and I said, look, we have to have enough photographers to go to the river every week. I said,
Because that's a relevant game there.
right. But also I said, the people in the city of New Orleans maybe have an inkling about it, but until you go there and you're there on a Friday night and you see that the entire Hahnville side is sold out with season tickets, all right, you don't really have a comprehension of how big it is. You come down here, I mean, I'd come down here when Preston Lejeune had his great teams there at E.D. White. I mean, I'd come down here and I'm like, holy smoke, look at all the people out here. It is a giant thing. And I think sometimes when you're in the city and maybe you get away from just a few teams, the Catholic League and maybe Carr, Warren, Easton, that group, maybe you don't really get a comprehension of that, all right? But it's gigantic.
Ed, and you've covered so much of the area here. We're going to stick sort of to the Bayou parishes, where we've seen Terrebonne made a great run under Gary Hill. Gary's done a fantastic job. You know, the one guy in spring, you know, Coach O, man, you were right about Mason. Man, Mason Smith, unbelievable talent from Terrebonne. And now, for the first time in my lifetime, they've got two, and it's been over the last 10 days, two verbal recruits going to Tulane. And Jalen Lucas, who was quarterback, running back, but basically he's going to be a slot receiver, punt kick returner, jet sweep running back at Tulane, and Caden Lewis, who I think will be an edge player defensively and be a really good one there. And they've sort of had to run here on the river, on the Bayou Parish, and gotten far into the playoffs. That has been, and some consistency, which we haven't seen here. A little bit about Gary and that run that they've had at Terrebonne that we haven't seen from many other schools here in Lafourche Parish. I know E.D. White has had a real nice, you brought up Preston, and now Kyle back at E.D. White, but man, what Gary's done at Terrebonne's been unreal.
Well, Gary's done a great job, and Jim Finks always used to say, when he'd look at players, he said, "I give them the eyeball physical," which
that eyeball physical on Mason.
Which I think is really interesting, because that can give you a lot of variables as to how you look at a player. But I thought it was a great analogy, because I think it was Eric Martin was holding out for more money, and they
every year
right,
he didn't want to go to camp,
right, and Eric didn't want to show up until the last minute. But anyhow, that's a story for another day. But then he'd show up, and then all of a sudden he's catching passes, and he's like, training camp, who needs that? But Gary's done a great job. And here's the thing. When they played Destrehan a couple of years ago, and Destrehan was enormously talented, all right, I'm on the sideline of that game. Destrehan won that game. But the one thing that I said to myself was, this is a Terrebonne team that is good enough to compete with them.
Pretty good.
And I don't think that you've had a lot of teams like that. And I'm not talking about just one or two guys, all right? A handful of players that you said, hey, look, if they switched uniforms, they could start on the other team, all right? And if you can start at Destrehan, you're a good player. And I'm talking about skilled players, too. So, I think there's some good coaches down there. Chris Dugas has done an excellent job. He's done an excellent job down here. And now I think a guy who's going to do an unbelievable job, who has an incredible resume, who's been around this area but not close enough for us, is Tommy Minton.
Yep.
I mean, Tommy Minton for Vanderbilt Catholic, that is a giant hire.
I agree.
And the guy is an excellent football coach, and you look at his resume over 28 years.
It's impressive.
It's impressive. So whatever he's doing, he knows what he's doing.
The best players you've seen here from the Bayou area, and certainly, I think about it because his mom and dad lives not far from me, and this was before too, probably in Tom Hodson, what he did at Central Lafourche. And Bobby always said, this is the only time Central beat South 3 years in a row, and then Keith Menard beats him 3 years in a row. And so, but until then, it was Tom. The best players you've seen here from the Bayou area throughout that time frame.
Well, the thing about Tommy Hodson is, I go back to 1984, and I can't tell you how many weekends, how many Fridays, and at that time I was doing the weekends at Channel 6, but I was covering prep games on Friday night. How many Fridays that I was at Central Lafourche. In fact, we even had a deal where we drove our satellite truck up to the overpass right there to make sure that we could get a microwave shot, or a microwave truck, to make sure that we could get a microwave shot back to New Orleans. And we went and tested it in the middle of the week. And now we would only do that, all right, if we planned on being in Matthews a lot. And we were there for Tommy Hodson a lot. And, I know Philip Livis.
Philip was great.
I mean, he was unbelievably fast. The thing now, Nicky Savoie, who was drafted by the Saints, the young man who played tight end, Eric's nephew at E.D. White. The name's escaping me. Really, really good player.
Trevon Reed, Greg Robinson.
Trevon Reed was a guy that when he got the ball under his arms, it was unbelievable, okay, what he could do. Greg Robinson was a great lineman. He was a great, great player. But, going through the years, here's the thing that I remember a lot about Bayou football, though, okay? When a team like South Lafourche is good, all right, they've got about 20 to 30 kids who almost all look like they're cut out of the same cloth, and they're all their names are Gaujour or Richard, okay? But you know what? All of a sudden, they've got that uniform on, all right? And they believe that they are 100 times better than maybe they truly are. And that's, to me, when I've seen the really good teams on the Bayou, you talk about good players, but those teams were, you had the great high school kid who had no ambition really, or no real shot to play Division I college football, all right? But he totally believed in his school on Friday night, and for him to wear that uniform
means a lot.
That's why, yeah, it's like, every year, I tell our guys every year, look, I don't really care what the record is when South Lafourche plays Central Lafourche, okay? Or E.D. White plays Vanderbilt Catholic. Who really cares? Whether it's great in the middle or it's not so good.
It means something, that
All right?
game.
That game means everything to the people down here, and they're going to talk about it for a year. So you can't miss it.